Today's interview is with Lewis Smith, an entrepreneur and location-independent app developer. Lewis is the creator of BodyTracker, formerly known as Progress, a body measurement tracking app that he designed for himself. We asked Lewis, what's your favorite book for both business and non-business? And he told us, his Dark Materials series by Philip Pullman is my favorite fictional book of all time. I just love this story so much. It's clever and thought-provoking, whilst also being accessible and gripping to read. The audiobook version is fantastic too, and narrated by Pullman himself. It's also inspiring because the main characters are just children, but they are so strong and determined. There is always something new to take from it. I love that Lyra is quite a popular girl's name now. For business, it's harder to pick a clear winner, but I've read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie quite a few times. It's very rare for a business book that it is packed with invaluable advice to be so easy and enjoyable to read. The fact that the tone and style is quite dated just adds to the fun in reading it and proves how valuable it still is. I recently recommended this book to my brother, who has never read a business book before, and he said it totally changed how he approaches dealing with people. We asked Lewis, was there a moment specifically when something you read in a book helped you? Can you tell us about it? He responded, Getting Things Done by David Allen really changed my whole attitude to managing myself and all the stuff I have going on. It's not the best written book, but the concepts in it were revolutionary to me and meant I went from feeling stressed all the time about work to much calmer with much less stuff in my head. We asked Lewis about the books that had the biggest impact on him, and he gave us 2 titles. The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss inspired us to quit our jobs, travel the world, and start our own business. I haven't reread it since, and I don't think much of the practical advice has aged well. But in terms of opening your mind to ideas, it's world-class. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker has also had a radical impact on me in the recent years and on my attitude towards money. I find it almost embarrassing to recommend because the ideas are very radical and woo-woo, but if you stick with it, it can change your perspective totally. We asked Lewis to recommend some books for youngsters who are interested in his professional path, and he responded, This is pretty tricky because I didn't learn to code from a book and my favorite coding books aren't in print anymore. But these books are very relevant for people wanting to work making software either for yourself or for other people. Badass by Kathy Sierra, How to Make Amazing Products, and super fun to read too. Codecraft by Pete Goodlife. This book is the fastest way to go from junior developer to senior developer. Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. It's not a programming book, but inspiring if you are starting your own thing. Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Also not a programming book, but inspiring if you are starting your own thing. Elon Musk by Vance and Sanders as well. Plus, I wish I'd read all the books I've mentioned in other questions 10 years earlier than I did. We told Lewis we were interested in finding out more about his reading habits. How often does he read and in what format? He told us, In Managing Oneself, Peter Drucker talks about how different people have different ways of receiving information. I realized that hearing is much more effective for me than reading, and so since then I only really listen to audiobooks. Incidentally, that book is 100% free on Audible and is shorter than most podcasts. Well worth your time. We asked Lewis how he makes time for reading, and he told us, I aim to take a walk most mornings and I listen to books then. Also, if I'm traveling or cooking, and sometimes when I'm jogging. I find it easier to make time for audiobooks than normal books, which is another part of their appeal. We asked Lewis, do you take notes or have any other technique for conquering the torrent of information? He responded, No, but I wish I did. Feel free to be in touch if you have good solutions for this. We also asked Lewis how he chooses which books to read next, and he said, I keep a wish list in Audible based on recommendations from friends and the internet. We asked Lewis, what book are you currently reading and what are you expecting to gain from it? He responded, I'm listening to Emotional Success by David DeStano. I'm hoping to use some of the ideas to help customers of my weight loss app stick to their targets and lose some more weight. We told Lewis, in the Indie Hackers interview you mentioned a few self-imposed deadlines that make a big difference on you. What other productivity principles do you use? He responded, Getting Things Done has lots of good advice on this front. Another self-imposed thing is setting big targets over smaller ones. I find that if I think, how do I make 1K per day, I'm approaching things very differently to how do I make 1K per month. It just opens the mind. Even if I don't hit 1K per day, I make more faster than if I think the other way. We also told Lewis, both you and your wife Jen have location-independent businesses. What are your biggest challenges in working remotely? He told us, now that I am full-time working on apps, I'm not really working remotely. My customers are all over the world and don't expect real-time communication with me. In fact, many are really happy that I reply at all. That said, time zones are always a challenge when you are living in a different country to your friends, family, and mastermind buddies. That inspired me to make my World Time widget app, which really helps me feel connected to people around the globe. This was our interview with Lewis Smith. If you want to find out more about him and his projects, go to lewismakesapps.com. You can also find all the books and links mentioned in this interview in the video description. Thank you!